Is the Fortnite OG mode actually an alternate timeline? Something really weird is going on inside of Fortnite OG, and I think it's finally time for us to talk about this in depth. There's a huge theory floating around right now that this version of the Fortnite Chapter 1 map might actually be an alternate timeline, and there's some solid evidence to back it up, but some of it is kind of contradictory, but we're going to break it down all in today's video, and you can decide if you think Fortnite OG is actually an alternate timeline or not, because this could mean literally everything might be different in this mode. So as you guys know, we are currently in Fortnite Chapter 1 Season 3. It's being replayed right now. In just over 2 weeks, we'll be going into Chapter 1 Season 4. And this is around the time where the Fortnite storyline is really starting to pick up. We're seeing the meteor again in the sky, but this time things just feel a little bit off in terms of the build up to Chapter 1 Season 4. Now, back in the day, everyone thought the meteor was going to hit Tilted Towers. It was pretty much a done deal. That was the biggest theory. That was the thing that made the most sense, but it ended up actually destroying Dusty Depot instead, which eventually turned into Dusty Divot, which is the hole that was over there in the middle of the map for the entirety of the chapter. Now, Fortnite's official account is teasing Tilted Towers again. They just posted this saying, "Anyone have eyes on Tilted Towers?" which is really weird because back in the day, they didn't say anything regarding where exactly this meteor was going to hit. Now, personally, I think that they may just be leaning into that sort of theory from back in the day, you know, kind of replaying what happened and what people were thinking about back in the day, but I do think it's really weird that Fortnite is bringing up Tilted Towers, especially since we all know that it actually did hit Dusty Depot and didn't even hit anywhere near Tilted Towers at all, besides for like that one meteor that hit that one building that kept getting like rebuilt and then destroyed and rebuilt over and over again. Now, this is where it gets a little bit interesting, and we're going to have to take a bit of a history lesson here. Donald Mustard, who was the former creative director of Fortnite, mentioned all the way back in 2020 that Tilted Towers actually was originally supposed to be the meteor's target. Like, they originally planned to destroy Tilted Towers in the beginning, just like everybody thought and just like the theories were saying. But they ended up not doing that because they didn't want to upset players. Tilted Towers was the most popular POI at the time. That's where everybody landed, and that kind of set the precedent for Fortnite having these kind of large POIs in the middle of maps that are really popular. And they didn't want to upset players. They didn't want people to leave the game, so they decided to go with a much less, I guess, gloved or cared for POI at the time, which was Dusty Depot. So if Tilted was the original plan, and now they're teasing it again with a brand new teaser, could this be the timeline where that plan actually happens? Who knows? But I do think there is a lot of evidence to support this. I don't know why Fortnite would say Tilted Towers again, unless they're just trying to make us theorize just like we did back in the day, but I do think there is a chance that Fortnite does decide to go a different direction with the meteor just because of how, I guess, like unpopular Fortnite OG has been, but we will talk about why that is later on in the video. Now, if you guys don't know, before Fortnite events happen or before something big in Fortnite would happen in Chapter 1, they would always have this kind of like rainbow, like, you know, out of service or, you know, service lost sort of thing with a llama on it. And players have found TVs in-game again, broadcasting these along with Morse code messages that translate to "it's happening again." If you guys want to see this in-game, it's at the top of the tallest building right next to Trump Tower in Tilted Towers right now. And when you aim in at it or you look at it, you will hear this Morse code that translates, like I said, to "it's happening again." Now, this could be a direct reference to the meteor event, suggesting that history is repeating itself, but it could maybe be with a twist. Now, if the meteor hits Tilted this time, it would be obviously a major divergence from the original timeline. But this is where it gets really weird and why I said some of the evidence contradicts itself. Over on Twitter, Fortnite, like I said, they said, "Anybody have eyes on Tilted?" which is kind of weird because everyone knows that it doesn't hit Tilted, so like why would they say that? But then with these TVs and things that are around the map, the Morse code is saying "it's happening again." And now if it was happening again, that would mean that it was going to hit Dusty Depot and not Tilted Towers. So you see how the evidence is kind of like blurry here. We're not exactly 100% sure what is going to happen. And I think Fortnite is probably doing this on purpose just to make us wonder this exact thing, and we're falling right into what they want us to be doing, but I do think it is something worth considering. Now, all of this evidence is fueling the theory that Fortnite OG is actually an alternate timeline, a sort of like what if scenario where events play out differently. Now, one popular theory that I saw on Twitter that I absolutely loved from Tedious X, he said, "What if OG is the Nothing's method of torturing the Seven?" Now, the Nothing, if you guys don't know, is like the main antagonist in Fortnite. I don't believe we've actually ever seen this like entity or whatever it is in game, but it's kind of the main antagonist that has kind of caused a lot of stuff to go wrong in Fortnite. He said replaying them these events so that they have to watch exactly what they did wrong over and over. The visitor let the cube in, the Foundation Spire drew in the mothership, scientists freeing the 0 point made it vulnerable for the Chrome, they're the reason the last reality won, and the nothing is making the 7 watch themselves fail. I think that's a really cool theory, and I would absolutely love to believe that, but I don't know if Fortnite is really going that in depth with the OG mode. Like you guys know, there's a lot of bugs and issues with Fortnite right now in OG, and it doesn't really seem like Fortnite is paying that much attention to it. I think this would be really cool, but I don't know if Fortnite is really kind of willing or thinks it's really worth it for them to go this alternate timeline route, but I do think it is really cool to think, and I hope that they do prove me wrong. Now, this would explain if the events like they're going to be supposedly replayed throughout this chapter that was leaked even before Fortnite OG release, that we're going to be seeing all of the events that happened again. This would explain why the events might be similar but not identical to how they originally happened. You know, the Meteor might hit Tilted Towers instead of Dusty Depot. You know, if Kevin the Cube comes back, he might go in a different direction. He may actually not go into Loot Lake. He might go somewhere else. Just small little things like that that make it be the same thing but have just something else happen to show that it is an alternate timeline. Like I said, guys, there's a lot of current bugs and issues with Fortnite OG right now. It's worth noting that Fortnite doesn't really seem to have their attention focused on Fortnite OG. There's a lot of bugs, a lot of issues right now, which definitely could impact how these events play out, but I think it's more important to note that Fortnite just may not be putting in as much effort into this as a lot of people think they are. Of course, it's really cool to theorize that, you know, Fortnite could be making an alternate timeline to get more people to pay attention to it. There's kind of two different sides to this. Like, on one hand, I think it would be cool to have an alternate timeline where things happen differently and not the same stuff happens over and over again, and that could spark a lot of interest in Fortnite OG again. But also, kind of the whole point of this permanent mode was to be able to replay everything and experience it the way it was, even though it's not the exact same graphics. You know, some of the issues with the sounds not being the same or the models, things like that, of course. But I think it could go either way. I think there's people that are going to be mad if they do it, you know, if they do an alternate timeline or if they do the exact same thing. People are going to be mad either way, but I do think an alternate timeline could actually, you know, kind of save the player counts and make people more interested in this right now. So is Fortnite OG an alternate timeline? The evidence is really convincing, but we won't know for sure until the Meteor hits, or, you know, maybe it doesn't at all. Maybe it hits like out in the ocean somewhere and literally nothing happens. That would actually be pretty insane. I think that'd be pretty funny. But if Epic is using OG to explore what if scenarios, it could change the way that we experience the game going forward. And I think if Fortnite does decide to do this, as you guys know, if you've been watching my channel, you know that I really want Fortnite after Season X to just create new seasons on the Chapter 1 map, like not go into Chapter 2, not reset, just create brand new seasons. We'll go into Season 11 of Fortnite and something else happens. If they go the alternate timeline route, I definitely think that they should do that instead of going to Chapter 2 or whatever else. But let me know what you guys think about this down below in the comments. Do you guys think we are actually in an alternate timeline inside of Fortnite OG? Let me know. Drop a like on today's video. You watched all the way to the end. You must have enjoyed, so drop a like. Subscribe to the channel. I make videos like these every single day. Use code PROZEROYT in the Fortnite item shop, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.